Welcome to The Road Less Traveled with Tiffany Rosenbaum. This podcast is about sharing the success and failure of entrepreneurs. Join in and learn from others' mistakes so you don't have to go through the same hardships in business. Now let's welcome your host, business coach, real estate investor, and proud wife and mom, Tiffany Rosenbaum.
We have Brandon Martino here. He's my brother, and I wanted to sit down with him because your story is incredibly inspirational. I look to you for inspiration, to you, everything you've created, and it's amazing because you are someone that flies underneath the radar and a true hero behind so many lives. And so I actually wanted to start with your childhood because I think that's where a lot of things transpire, but how you started up a landscaping business and things like that. So I kind of want to start there and then we'll go through and it's all about the struggle and how we continue through that.
I think it actually started before that. I was 6 years old and I still remember it like it was yesterday. Our dad, my father, coming to me and going, "Hey, you ever thought about starting a business?" And I remember thinking, well, no. He goes, well, what if you started a business to start earning how to make some money? And in our childhood, in our family, we talked about the entrepreneurship, talked about business and being self-reliant and how important those things were. And I remember him go, well, what if you started a shoe shining business? As I was talking to him through it, he was kind of giving me some ideas. He goes, you ever read the wagon? Let's make a sign and let's put pricing down. And you've been able to walk down the street door to door, knock on the door, tell them who you are, what's your dean, what's your price, pick up the shoes, come back to the house and shine them, and I'll be quality control, make sure that you're doing a good job. And then you can go back down the street, drop them off, and pick up your money. Well, that was easier said than done. So I was like, okay, all right, that's good, Dad. So I think it was the next week, I went to the store and I started looking at what it cost me to get all the shoe shining things. I remember the buffer, real buff the shoes and the different sprays. So I looked up and realized how much it was going to cost. And so I went back home and I'm okay, Dad, this is what I need. I wrote it down, so this is what I need, because what's going to cost. I said, but I don't have that money. And I remember going, okay, tell you what, I'll be the bank. I'll loan you money, charge you interest, you'll pay me back, and this will be your assist. So that's what I did. I went the door to door, which it was paying that time, right? So we knew what doors I was going to. And I'd bring them back every Saturday and then shine them, give me inspected, get them drum up. No. I don't ever forget one time for a real expensive pair of boots. I was with that buffer and I was buffing those boots and I turned it sideways just a little bit, they nick it. And I was so embarrassed. Oh my gosh, no, you got to make it right. So you need to go back to that customer. So what you did, somebody you're going to take somewhere, get it fixed and bring it back, repair. And I did, and took a lot of my profits. So I was like, okay, but I made it right with the customer and I continued to do this. I did actually for 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And then I remember at 8 years old, my floppy means today. You've been shining shoes, been doing well. How are you doing? I was like, I'm making money. Boom. He goes, well, you need to make more money. I was like, Dad, let me know. 8 years old. Where am I going? And he goes, have you ever thought about starting your own lawnmower business? I said, okay, I think I can learn this. He said, okay, I got a couple lawns and starter. You have to grow in business. Well, we did that, but I realized really quickly that it was very difficult to push a lawnmower because I could see the ants. And so we did the same thing where I started mowing the lawns, but I needed some equipment that really fit me. Like at that time, the only lawnmower we find was a lawn. I still remember the price of it was $600. And I was 8 years old, so it was a long time ago. And we went, I put the price together, everything I did. And I went to him and said, okay, I think I can start the lawnmower business. And this is where things cost. Well, I hadn't made enough money in the shoe shining business to be able to buy a $600 mower. And he goes, I'll tell you what, I'll be the bank. I'll loan you the money. I mean, very interested to me with this business. So I think I did that about 2 years. Every weekend while my friends were playing and having fun, I was mowing lawns.
You and us and me.
Yeah, I do remember that. Well, I think at my first outside of family, first employee was probably 10 years old. And I remember Mom getting very upset. Oh, he's not mowing lawns. He now hired a teenager to drive and go mow the lawns. He's building and trying to run this business, but he's actually doing the work. Well, this is wrong. And the dad said, no, try to teach him. Try to teach him to go on business. So I did this all the way up into high school, and I had employees and learned and made more money than a young little kid probably should. But I learned to struggle with it. You know, there was some lawns that I did, and I didn't bid it enough. It cost me money to be able to do it. I started learning really quickly the importance of pitting correctly, running it, and even fixing equipment. But it went well. But once I got to high school, I got tired working all the time and all my friends. As a kid, I looked at it, was frustrated because as a kid, I was like, well, I'm working while my friends are playing. So in high school, I got rid of the business and I went to school. What I didn't realize is some of those things I learned as a kid really kind of paved the way to get me to what I was going to become. And I won't forget, so I went on a mission for our church, came back from that, was going to school full time and not working. I ended up having a baby, right? And there's sometimes luck in life, and a friend has been picking me up where you'll play golf. Well, he picked me up to go play golf, and he goes, Rand, I'm going by this job interview before we go play golf. I said, okay, well, you will do that and come back and get me. He said, no, come with me, go to the job interview, and you can just sit outside, no big deal. I'll do this job interview. So I go to this job interview, and I'm sitting out in the lobby, and there's a whole bunch of people. I didn't even know what the company was. I didn't know where it was for. I didn't know anything, but I just sat in there because I was going to sit in the hot car. So I'm sitting there waiting for this job interview for him to get out so we could leave here to play golf. Well, he comes out, he's ready, I'm like, let's go. And the guy that was doing the interview said, wait a minute, you're here for an interview. Come on in, you get an interview right now since you need to leave. And I said, oh, no, I'm not here for the job. Hey, that's him. I'm actually going to go play golf. He goes, you're here, you might as well have an interview anyways. So I went into the interview and I told him my story. I told him where I grew up, what I did, businesses that I ran, my childhood. Didn't think any of it. Went to play golf, went on. Fast forward, not too long after that, I got engaged and I was getting married. Well, once I got married, my father said, hey, you're old enough to be married. You're an adult now. We're going to talk about budget. You're going to figure out how you're living on your own. Long story short, we figured all that out. But the guy that did the interview called as I was, because I was going to be looking for a job now that I was getting married. Your son to go to work and do something. They called me and he said, hey, remember that interview? Well, that interview was in Best Tools. It was a stock investing, and it was a sales job. And he goes, so we'd like to offer you that job. Offer that job. There was like 30-something people you've interviewed. He says, yes. But listen to your story. Stood out from everybody else. And if you can do what you did there, you can definitely do this. So that's what I did. I accepted the job, came home over Christmas, went back, started getting to work, and got married in March. And in college, I started realizing how much money there was to be made sales. I was making more money than any college student should be making. I mean, I thought, wow, this was awesome. I didn't have any debt, and I was working, and my wife, as we got married, they had a car, they went to school, I was able to pay everything up and live a very, very comfortable lifestyle. I was doing investors. Well, we grew up in a family business. A ladies' lingerie, they were in 30 different countries, a large organization. And I always knew in the back of my mind that maybe once I was done with college, I could go work for a family business. I remember talking to Dad and going, well, there's always a place here, but you need to go work somewhere else for 2 years. After work for 2 years, file what you're worth. You can always come back and it'll be a job here for you. So I was working at Invest Tools. I worked for over 2 years. I graduated from college. And when I graduated from college, they gave me an offer. Well, this writing an offer was 6 figures. So, I mean, to be naive, I was making phenomenal money in college. I was not going to graduate. And I said, okay, I need to fly home. I need to get an interview with my father. I found out what I'm worth in the marketplace. I'm ready to go to work here. I called the secretary, got an appointment set up, everything for Monday morning. I fly in town. I walk into my appointment Monday morning, and he's behind a big old desk, CEO of the company, and I walk in, put it on his desk, and I go, Dad, well, I'm ready to go to work. That's over. And he looked down at the paper. He looked up at me, looked back down the paper. He goes, they think you're worth 190. You need to take that job. That's not how this is supposed to happen. I found out what I was worth, and I'm ready to go work here. He goes, yeah, but if you start here, you start at the bottom. Okay, what exactly does the bottom mean? He goes, well, you're going to be paid about a third of what they're on the bank. Well, then I'm married, kids, house, I bills, I got things I can't do off favors. Well, then keep the job. Don't worry about it. I went back to the house and started talking to Janie, and we started praying about it. She goes, no, your family's in Texas, my family's in Texas. We want to move back to Texas. So why don't you try it? What's the worst thing you had? You try it, and It didn't work out. I was go get jobs. So I called him back up and I said, okay, we'll take that job. And we finished school, came back to Russellman and started working for Russellman. I wanted to free it. So I was in an account executive position with MS Tools. I wore slacks every day. Sometimes I dressed up in a suit, sometimes travel. So my assumption was, well, I come back and work for Russellman with any company. I'm definitely having an office and I'm going to go into sales. I'll be good to go. So I showed up my first day of work. Slacks, polo, wasn't quite a suit, but I was a salesman. This was great. So we'll show up. Like, okay, where's my office? Office, what do you mean? I said, well, I'm a salesman. I'm here to sell sleepwear. Then give me an office and a phone and I'll be good to go. He goes, no, I don't think you understood the startup bot. I said, okay, what does that mean? He looked out his window of his office and there was that distribution center across the highway, across the street. And he goes, see that distribution center? He goes, well, let's go over there and start sweeping the floors. Sweeping the floors? I mean, I have a degree. I'm a sweep. So I'm going to sweep floors. I swept floors due through me. And then I went back on what's next. And then I started loading trucks. And I understand now what he's trying to do, right? So I worked through every division of the business and really started to understand the business. I got to work with a group with Ahmed Hilfiger, some of their merchandising people. I got to work with in different divisions, really understand businesses. So eventually I got into sales. Eventually I got an office and I started doing extremely well in it. We got into some areas we weren't in and some big clients like Walmart, JCPenney's, Dillard's, enjoying a lot. Something our father always taught us was this: what you need to do, no matter what you do at your job, you need to find a way to make some amount of money outside your job. What that is true wealth, true independence, because at the end of the day, something happens to your job, you go replace it. So when he had taught me, it was real estate, and I started doing real estate on the side and started falling in love with it and going, okay, I wrote my dreams. And every night I come home and I don't, okay, I get the apparel industry and I get the fact that it's a big business. What if we wouldn't start on real estate? What if we wouldn't start on real estate? Well, being the fact that we were having kids, being the fact that we had the benefits, to go out on my own and actually be an entrepreneur at this time of my life, it's a big deal because the risk and whatever decision I make affects Jamie and the rest of my family. Walmart free at one Saturday, and I was sitting down at the table having breakfast. She looked at me and she was, Brad, been talking about this for years. You want to go start smiling your structural. And she was pregnant with her first child. Maybe you understand what that means, right? Like, it was salary, made benefits. If we all started our own thing, we had enough. And she goes, you know what though? It doesn't work out. Let's worse than that. So I said, okay, I agree with you. Well, it is. So walked in Monday morning and went into my father's office. He was sitting down at his big desk. Oh, he had some reports. And I said, Dad, can I talk to you for sure? Do you mind close the door? He said, yeah. So I closed doors. I wrote his all you are means. Looked up from his names. It's you. I said, it's in there for me. And he got it from his chair and he said, can never see. He sent me the hash. Bush knows, you realize this is the years. And yes, there's lots of cousins, lots of everybody goes, this is the years. And I go, yeah, but I don't know. I got back up from the chair while I turned this out. He goes, so what do you do? Hey, what about doing? And he was very supportive. So he goes, you know what? That was my first love. I didn't have the guts to do it. If you want to do it, forgive me. He goes, you got some big accounts now. Give me some time to transition those accounts and go out there, see what you need. Brandon heard about it. He got very upset. He was like, no, you're not leaving here. He goes, Brandon and I were really close. And he's like, no, he's not leaving here. He goes, he'll build his wealth here. He can invest in real estate. He's not leaving. This is. And I were afraid of dad saying, no, it's not what he wants to do. I support him people out on his own fair week. So it got announced. The thing not everyone knows what you know about our father is he's an early riser. I will never forget after he get announced and call him, I'm like, he come out, we're 35. Brandon, and of course, you know, being a son and trying to be productive. Oh yeah, I'm up. Yeah, well, yes, Dad. What can I help you with? And I'm like, and he's like, yeah, oh yeah, I've been up for hours. What are you talking to me like 4:30 for the morning? And he goes, well, okay, so you're out in the running it, and I'm gonna start your own real estate business. He goes, what are you doing for an office? I said, office. I'm gonna work from home. He goes, well, no, you can't do that. I said, Dad, that office, like I'm going from having salary benefits to nothing. And he goes, no, you need to have an office. And I said, okay, well, there are my options. He goes, well, I have a one-room office down. I'll let you rent it from. And something's a disconnect here. I said, I rent from you, but I have no money. And he goes, well, I'll tell you what, at night, I'll give you some buildings to and the money you make from cleaning the buildings, you can pay for rent. Okay, I have an office. Now we're happy, right? He goes, no, what do you do? I said, well, I think we sell homes. I said, okay, go out there switching. So fast forward, I got into the business and I started selling homes. And I sold a couple of duplexes. So every time I go shabam, and there's nothing wrong with selling, people do extremely well. But to me, there was a lot of emotion. Like every time somebody would walk in and be like, oh, I don't like this paint. Will you paint it, Or we can do this. And I saw a couple of duplexes and I realized real quick there was no emotion. The number made sense. It was a wow. So I like the investment side. And I remember Dad called me and he goes, hey, how's business doing? I said, well, I'm doing pretty well. Sold some homes, sold a couple of duplexes, and I think I'll start focusing on the investment side because that's what I really like there. And he goes, well, if you're selling investments, once you sell this, hey, I go, wait a minute, what can you buy? He goes, well, if it makes sense, I can buy anything. Well, that's reading my ear or something here. I'll make a ton of money. I'm starting making more money than I was making at Russell Newman, but if I could put project together and I could sell this project, my commission on it could be 2-3 years of salary. Ding, ding, ding. I always had to work as hard. This would be awesome. And I wonder if so I went and found the biggest piece of property in Lamar. And I think it's a powerful combination. I put it together. This whole presentation together. Come on. I can sell this. This is good. I'm in the lottery. This is awesome. And so I called him up and set for a woman. Went to Russell and to Russell. Put this presentation together and I pitched in this presentation. I think it's the worst experience. He beat me up. He had questions I didn't have answers to. And it was like, oh my gosh. I went out of there and I felt just like this is terrible. But I was persistent. So every week I'd put a new presentation in, and every week I'd go to his office and I'd present. I did this probably for 9 or 10 months. Didn't sell me. I was so frustrated. I quit. I'm like, I was off seeing where my page meetings. So I hadn't come up for a couple of weeks and calls and your cases. Brandon, how you doing? I said, good. I said, you making money? He said, yes, I am. Are you selling stuff? Yes. How's the investment side? You go, well, no. He goes, why did you shut up to our weekly meet? I thought you were going to present me. I said, Dad, I've realized you're difficult. And I realized that I can sell something to someone else and I can't sell something to you, so I'm wasting my time. He goes, no. Think about it. What are you really learning? I said, I really don't know. Like, I'm definitely wasting my time. He goes, come save me. Come by the office. So I came to the office, sat down, and we started talking about it. And he goes, Brad, what are you learning from the things that you're presenting at these top learners? I go, Dad, I really don't know. I like real estate. I realize that no matter what I bring to you, it doesn't work. And at that point, he goes, there's 2 things you need. Do you understand this is like a big difference in business? So, okay, what is that? Number 1, don't sell anything you're holding. And I was sitting there thinking, okay, it's easier said than done. First of all, I had no money. You could say that because if you were selling and you hadn't you couldn't sell, you could buy it, right? I go, so I don't know how that works. He goes, well, let me teach you how to put a network thing. Let me teach you how to do like. So he goes, we're at position. At this point, they sold the company. He goes, we don't need banks, so we're at position. We'll have to do that. But let me teach you how to go to a bank to build finance. So, okay, let's pretend for a second. Everything I'm going to sell, if I can't sell it, I'll buy it myself. What's number 2? He goes, you need to be able to tell a story about the numbers. You need to be able to understand the numbers inside. So, okay, Dad, that's also difficult, right? I go and I look at a piece of property. I get a number from a broker. They tell me what's going on. I think what they're telling me not quite accurate to what I think it is, but I don't know. He goes, well, that's the benefit of being part of the thing. He said, why don't you, powerhouse, for example, you look at the powerhouse, she gives the numbers. Why don't you take something from one of the things portfolios that's a comparative? And why don't you, when you go to present it, go say, hey, this is the property. This is what they think it's going to do. This is what I think it's going to do. And this is why. Compare. So that's when my life started changing. So I started realizing, wait a minute, I can put these projects together. I can go sell them. And if they're not buy it, I'll buy them myself. So that's what I did. Some of the projects I do present, I'd sell them. Some of them I do by myself. Some of them I started putting partners together. So early on, I was very much commission-based, and I was just trying to make a living. I'll never forget one of my first deals. I go into an investor. Early on, as we were making conditions, an investor and I presented to them. They looked down at the domain and said, I tell you, I'll do that, but you do you it. Hard document. Well, yeah, I might do that. Started thinking about it. He goes, well, Spec, you put the dent in it. Come into it with me. Guarantee it with me. Let's go see what happens. I went back to the office and started thinking about it with my business partner, Tom Lee. Where's my business partner? And I started going, okay, man, let's stop just trying to sell. Let's own them and keep them. That's when things changed. Where we went from duplexes to fourplexes to 200 unit apartments, 300 unit apartments. Industrial, we did the same way that we did from, a 10,000 square foot building to a 20 to 30 to 170. Then we started buying big tracts of land, started doing subdivisions. What we became is a planned office. And there's been good times and bad times. It's not always easy. It has changed the way I look at things. And we're a small family office now. And this we do.
Now, I want to look back a little bit. Are we good real quick? Okay, I'm going to look back a little bit because I think, like you said, I think it started from when you were a little big kid, though. What was the feeling, like the true feeling when Dad said you had to go make it right with those shoes, those pair of shoes? How did you feel when you had to go show the client?
It's embarrassing, right? And it is, but it taught you to go do what was right, no matter what. And I think the biggest thing is what we've learned in our business, why we've grown to where we have is relationships. Whether it's banks, whether it's investors, whether it's relationships, treat people the way you want to be treated. So when in that specific situation, I did something wrong, although I didn't want to go show the guy that I messed up his boots, expensive boots, which it took me months and months to the guy, it made me realize that, hey, you know what, when there's a problem, head it on, or go at it head on and just tell them what happened and try to make it right.
I didn't know the story about you going to Dad's office every week and how many people would quit the first day. I know, but how often do we stop when we're getting caught but go, you know what, even though I'm learning, he's teaching me something, and you kept going for 9 months showing deals. And in real estate, a lot of times people quit before that investor buys because it takes time.
So I think there's a lot of times in my career where I thought one my wordy, and when early on in business when we start growing, and I won't forget to hire my first employee, team member, and when I hired them, I was going, "Oh, bounce that to me this month, money just to pay salary." And I won't forget calling Dad, saying, "Hey, Dad, I'm stressed out. Can you relate to this?" He goes, "No, I was third generation business. It was completely paid off, and we had so much money in the bank. I wouldn't worry about it." I go, "Okay, thanks, Dad. Talk to you later." But what I realized as we started growing, I realized every decision that Lee and I made affected the families that work with us. So early on, as Lee and I started talking about, I think we'll need to put together an advisor. And this advisor will help keep us accountable for the decisions we make, because the decisions we're making affect everyone that works with us. So as we started thinking about it, no, we're not. We're entrepreneurs, so we don't have to answer to anybody. But the reality is you answer somebody, whether it's your customer, whether it's families that work with you, whoever it is. And so we decided we'll put this advisor book together so that we can be open book with them on our financials, open book with them on the problems we're dealing with, open book with them on what we're going through, hoping that we will make what's best decision for the team and the people that we work with, and not just what's best for one person. And I won't forget, there's many times we've been in a board meeting, and Lee and I walked out of the board meeting, they don't want to talk. They're too old, they're out of touch, we don't want to talk. And 4 or 5, 6 months later, they knew exactly. And we had to go back and eat crow, or go back and go, "Yep, they're right." We follow what they said. But as an entrepreneur, sometimes you go, "Man, that's not." I think the other thing helped us do things that entrepreneurs a lot of times delay or don't think it's important. As a salesman, it's all about sales. So bring in the front, but you have to think about your account. You got to think about your backstab. You got to think about making sure you understand the business as a whole. And I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we work in the business instead on the business. And so that was some of our success, or a lot of our success, I think, was early on doing an advisory board.
It means you work on the business, not in the business. What you talk about there is very true. So many times in real estate or any business, the owner of the company or the entrepreneur gets shoved into a position and not pulling themselves out to breathe life into the business and help the families. And You give jobs and a place. You talk about your team, and through camera doesn't always come, but you talk about your team and your employees passionately. Like, you really, really care about them. When you started the business, was it always that way, or was it transactional and then you learned that it was more?
I think when you're on your own, you think well, it takes you, right? But as you start growing, you realize real quick it's not just fruit. And even what we do today, we could do it. And I think as you really become a true entrepreneur, you realize the importance of building teams, the importance of camaraderie. With what happened with COVID, you're going, oh my gosh, I can't. To work on FaceTime all the time, there's so many things that happen in our office where we're walking past each other, working on a deal, or things that just can't happen if you don't have the interaction. And I think as I continue to grow, because we always do, I realize that our team is empowered. And the people that I feel very blessed to have the opportunity to work with.
That's amazing. You have built an amazing team. Now, what is one of the biggest struggles you've had by building businesses? It's not just one business, you had multiple. What's like the biggest struggle? Tell me a failure. So, because like he said before you ever started videoing, he said some people look in and go, it's just easy for them. But in reality, it's not. Yeah,
I think the comment is, I think as an entrepreneur, anyone that's been through being an entrepreneur knows the struggle. And I don't care how successful somebody is, everybody has pros. And you don't win them all, right? You win some, you lose some. You hope that your losses are mitigated and small compared to your wins. I'll tell you, trying to find good people, as you're building a team, you need a core team. As that team starts to get bigger and bigger, it's hard to keep your same values and your same culture. I think that's one bit of the most difficult things. So from us, I don't know how much you know about this or don't. When we first started, we were basically doing real estate. Well, what we did is, as we were developing real estate, we started buying businesses or building businesses to help us develop. So we started a construction firm. We had a car management firm. We had development. We bought a title company. We had an engineering firm. We had an architecture firm. We started building these businesses to help us develop. We did that. And as we grew, we started, stepping out into different businesses. We went to flooring store business, and we bought some out of foreclosure and we grew them. We went into car wash business, where we felt it's a real estate component. It's easy, right? You're finding land, you build a car wash, and you're running it. Well, no, you're actually an operation business running a car wash, and the real estate is just a component of that. But the reality of it is, if you don't run that real well, your special use real estate, what are you going to do with that? We did extremely well on that one. Our goal was to build a 50. We built a 7, and then sold it to one of the largest car wash companies. So sold earlier because we saw, long story there, but we saw Legacies was coming into the space. They were coming into it in a big way. At the early stages of it, was a great business. Not that it's not today, but now I have so many that are popping up all over. A lot more competition, a lot more difficult, and expensive. Actually building of them every can. The flooring stores, we sold those off. And today we've sold off all of our operating companies except for we have property management, title company, and our development firm. And now we focus on develop. We're doing what we love. Early on, it was hard to do that because you couldn't make any money, right? It takes so much time to build these projects to actually make money. You have to get to a point that you can actually sustain the economic cycles and different things to make it work. So we're building these businesses to help pay our salaries, so then we could not feed a machine and have this development arm that we could do. We grew from Texas to multi-states. We've now divested of most of the other states and all of our Texas. We're doing anything from housing developments to multifamily, industrial, manufactured housing.
So from the companies that done really well, some haven't, what did you learn from the ones that didn't go as planned? You had to shut them down, or they were a struggle as you went along. What did you learn from?
It's not as easy to just find people to come in and run your businesses. Most people don't care about it as much. And now in our core, I'd tell you our core team's phenomenal, but trying to really scale that is hard. And like I talked about the cultures, it's hard. So it's not as easy so we got up to, we're 300 something employees.
It's a lot of employees.
There's a lot of employees. And the other side of it, I'm a people person. A lot of people I talk about, I'm like, hey, it got to a point you didn't know everyone. And that was hard for me. So starting as an entrepreneur in a small business and me knowing everyone when I walked into the office and then knowing me, I enjoyed it. And as we grew, Lee and I walked into a Christmas party and you looked around the room of 3/4 of these people. And we go, do we really want to do that long term? So we sat down and made a list of the things that we wanted to do long term, what we really wanted to do. And I don't want to work alone. I want to work around a good team. But I don't want to be, I want to be really good at what we do, but I don't want big things. And so with that, that's why we went and sold off several of our other businesses. Now, I love the transaction. The deal, the high from the deal is awesome. I can tell you lots of stories of closing deals and getting excited about that. Now, as you grow, they're few and far between the bigger deals, but it doesn't come as often.
If you had a choice to take back all your struggles, would you? All your failures?
I think that every time there's a failure, I thank the Lord that it has taken me under, and I think teaching me something. So that the reality of it is things come easy. You think you're invincible. You think you'd be, learn with struggles is we're really good at this one, not so good at this. And we try to keep fine tuning what we're good at. So no, I would. Now, in the midst of it, sometimes we're all, please take it away. I'd love to, I wish it was just as simple as winning the lottery and going out there and doing whatever, but it's not. So no, I wouldn't want to take it away. They're hard times, right?
Well, that's amazing because I truly believe what you put out in the world, you get back. If you put out positivity and you give, you should back. Actually, there's this thing, there's study done. The more money you put out, the more money you get back. The more positivity you put out, the more you get back. Whatever you look for and whatever you do, you get back. So if you're a relationship type person, you're going to get those relationships back because you're going to treat people like you want to be treated. And same if you look at negativity, you're going to get negativity back. So if you were talking to anybody, if people that are listening, what would the advice be to create your ultimate life?
You them sounds like a child's answer, but it's treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think money changes. And so you will see people cheat, they secretly rob. You'll see people do things that are, once money's involved, they won't always act the way that they should. And if you'll take that, my business partner, everything we do is 50-50. I love him like a brother, and I will tell you, money doesn't drive. You don't see that very often. It's all about the relationship and people. And I think at the end of the day, and I can say that because he's not here, but that is him, right? And it's taught me that's treating people how you want to be treated. It shouldn't sway. Even today, with what we're doing, the deal size we're doing, it's all about relationships.
It is about relationships. And I want to put a plug in here because not everybody knows, but when I was starting at my business, I was really struggling. And I called you, and I live in Arizona, and I called you and I said, Brandon, this is probably why I got emotional identity because you've been a big part of our life. And I said, Brandon, you came with my ashes, could you mind flying out and getting your broker's license out in Arizona? And without a drop of a hat, you said, yeah, I'll come. And Jamie supported you, and she was supportive, and that's the big reason why we're at where we're at. And it's that relationship, that care that you have, and you can tell just by talking to you, you truly care about relationships and people. And that's not found a lot in the world today. A lot of people are transactional or money-based, and like you said, it changes people, but you truly care about the teams you've built. You truly care about the people around you, and I think that's amazing. And I really, really appreciate you talking with me. I think you were very inspirational, and I look up to you a lot. So come and we'll see let us know what you think about the stories that we told you today.
Thanks for tuning in today to The Road Less Traveled. If you're organizing an event, workshop, or simply planning something exciting and would like to have Tiffany Rosenbaum join you or want to have her on your podcast, visit TiffanyMRosenbaum.com and click on Book Tiffany to get started.